And so they disconnected it and weren't supposed.
The ad hoc committee meeting for Tuesday, January 23rd to order. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd like to please have everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting this afternoon. The Communications Committee is an ad hoc subcommittee consisting of 2 council members, committee chairperson, myself, Colleen Baker, and our mayor, Corey Middleton, the city manager, and the city clerk. The purpose and responsibility of the Communications Department ad hoc committee, with consultation from city staff, is to review communication channels with the public and residents who have varying levels of access, and that the city better understands and is able to disseminate information and communicate effectively within the vast preferences for how, when, where, what, and why for understanding. And the committee shall advise and make recommendations to the city council on matters related to the effective communications that include visual, oral, print, digital, multilinguistic, and where residents are able to engage with the city reciprocally, utilizing many of these tools. The first thing on our agenda is public comment. And so public participation is limited to those items listed on this agenda. If your comments do not concern an item listed on the agenda, please address the city council at the next regular meeting. The city requests that persons addressing the communications committee refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. Committee members, when recognized by the committee chair, may ask questions from the presenter, but no action may be taken by the committee during the public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the committee is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. Please speak into the microphone from the podium, and the podium electronically adjusts up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the committee as a whole. If you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 4 copies. These become a public record. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Since the committee is unable to take action on issues not on the agenda, your matter may be referred to staff for follow-up or be placed on a future agenda. Public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with the committee or city staff. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Jan Osborne, Yreka, California. Comment on the fact, I don't know what the city manager's newsletter is. I don't know if that's something we've been receiving, and I saw that was on the agenda. And I have another item that actually it's not on the agenda, and I'm admitting that, but it has to do with communication. I have a hearing loss, and it's very difficult for me to hear what's going on unless you speak into your microphones. And I've also requested of the city clerk to have it brought up that the city provide headsets, because I would really like to be able to participate a little bit more. But when I read what's up there and try to hear, it often doesn't even make sense. And I know you all make sense when you talk, but sometimes the script up there does not. So again, I'm looking forward to hearing what the city newsletter is and where I can find it. If it's that thing that's in the water bill, then that answers that question. But again, about headsets and communication. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3 is
Colleen.
special.
Sorry, Council Baker.
Please come to the podium.
Councilman Baker, sorry. Is this working? Hello? Yeah, okay.
Hi, thank you all. My name is Don East. I know some of you, I've met you before. I'm connected with Yreka Preservation. It's been a while since I've been involved, and I've just come back to be involved in the city again. So that's why I'm here. And thank you for making this possible.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
East. The next agenda item is item number 3, special presentations, but I see that we have none. So we will move right on to agenda item number 4, which is old and new business. And this is the time for the city manager and staff to make presentations for us. And the first one is item A, the project updates on ballot measure initiative and communications.
Thank you, Chair Baker. This is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager. So ultimately, there was a request for this information to see the polling data. And so we do have some of that data. And if you don't mind handing it out. So ultimately, I'll just kind of run through the timeline with Civic Mike here. So September of 2023, Civic Mike works with city to draft poll-based informational messaging for staff, community members, and local stakeholders regarding city's public safety programs and increased demand for emergency medical response and other services. Key points, fact sheet, PowerPoint presentation, provide content for city, hypothetical city website, content for city's existing communication channels. Create a customized web page for your project, create online community survey, post online survey, include specialized mapping, create an email list. These were some of the hypothetical jobs or action items that we had for Civic Mike. October, November of 23, begin public outreach to community organizations, businesses, local officials, meetings and presentations with influential groups, community leaders. So we've kind of seen the fire chief kind of venture into this with his special presentations that he's been providing for the city council during the special presentation times. I think he's done it pretty much the last 3 meetings. December 23, January 24, city staff, city attorney, and Civic Mike worked together to develop internal first draft of a possible sales tax ordinance and resolution. Continue public outreach. Hypothetically, February, March of 24 would be write, design, and send first informational mailer to all registered voters, outlining city needs, including increased demand for emergency medical response, fire safety prevention, introducing the need for local funding, and encouraging feedback regarding potential projects to be funded. April, May of 24, analyze community feedback, refine messages, and plan based on that community feedback. If the city council at that point so chooses to move forward with trying to utilize a funding mechanism such as the sales tax opportunity, you guys would be finalizing that resolution and ordinance. June, July of 24, city council meeting, city council adopt that final resolution calling for an election no later than July 3 of 2024. And that is that is 125 days prior to the election. There'd be adopted resolution to the county register of voters, which I believe you're very familiar with, Ms. Baker. There would also be, this would happen no later than August 9th of 2024. Civic Mike updates messaging content for the website. We would continue the public outreach. So this is just kind of when we started this process with Civic Mike, this is what the guys that we were kind of working under. We have paused our communication or our engagement with them at this moment as we come to the council to gain clarification as to whether or not you would like to first and foremost understand the issues of the fire department, which will be happening on, there's a special meeting on January 30th that is going to be hyper focused all about the fire department and the hypothetical needs. And then we will introduce to you opportunities for different funding mechanisms. And then we would expect that you would advise us, the city council would advise us to have multiple meetings after that, essentially the same meeting, but maybe a different location. So we would be workshopping the community, providing that messaging, gaining more feedback so that the city council can make an informed decision at some point. So we'll just jump to kind of the meat of this, which is how we started, which was essentially the cold calling within the community. So you should have in front of you this Gene Bregman and Associates polling information. And so if you would like, we can kind of just go through the entirety of this document.
You know, I personally don't feel
Oh,
the
okay.
need to go through it item by item. Maybe if you could just give us a synopsis.
Yeah, so absolutely. So you'll see that there's some percentages here based off of some questions that came about. And ultimately, what we gained is that there is a decent percentage of people within the community that had no idea that it was a volunteer-based fire department.
Mhm.
And that when that information was provided for them, that ultimately more than 50% of the population was either in the definite or yes to agreeing to a sales tax initiative, essentially that they would hypothetically support one. Now it's polling data, so not everybody in the community was contacted. And then they take roughly, it was just over 100, I believe, Retta, contacts that they made. And then they basically go back through and cross-check that to what demographic they had. They then boost that demographic based off of the voting population within the city they're working in. So for the city of Yreka, and then that's how they come up with this idea to tell you, it appears as though that this has a high possibility of passing or it has a high possibility of failing. So it is no end all scenario, but this document basically paints the picture out of the 153 people that they polled, that they feel that there is some level of confidence that a sales tax initiative for safety would hypothetically pass based off of this data. Now that is not, there's just not a lot of science and fact around that, in my personal opinion, but it's positive in the sense to have an understanding for the city council, if you did move forward, that there is a high probability that ultimately people in the community, when they find out that the fire staff is volunteer, that they're willing to tax themselves in order to rectify that so that they have better service. Retta, do you have anything to add on this? Do you guys have any?
This with Rochelle, I think at the September ad hoc committee, I think she did a presentation on that. But yeah, it just kind of like it gives the questions. You know, one of the highest ones was fire protection, emergency medical response services are too important to rely solely on volunteers to provide services. And that one really resonated in the community. It's a high percentage. So, you know, kind of based on those, we got a sense of, you know, kind of the issues that were most important to them within the community to incorporate into the outreach.
So yeah, I would draw your attention to page 5, and under 11B, there's a section and it's got answers for what they're calling Q.11A and Q.11B. And you can kind of see the differences here. The questions were asked over a 1% sales tax versus a 0.5% sales tax. And so ultimately question 11A is for the 1% sales tax. And if you take the definitely yes with the probably yes and combine those together, that gives you a 66% versus a 0.5% sales tax that is an increase of 7%. So there's hypothetically 73% of the folks that, within the context of the 153 people that advocated on the phone call based off of the information provided, that they claim they would support a sales tax initiative.
Thank you. I appreciate that summary. And I'm assuming that this information is going to be provided to the city council as a whole? Or,
Yeah, we can make this a part of the presentation that's given on the 30th. It'll probably be a part of my presentation. So in that presentation, we're removing the fire chief from funding, and he's just presenting to you the problem. And then ultimately, I would present to you the possibilities for revenue streams. And then we would just really leave it open-ended at that point. I mean, we do want to have it in the back of everyone's head that you could not make a decision and really think about this for an extended period of time, and then create a decision point over a possible election at any point. But we do know the November 24 election approaches, and based off of the severity internally that we see with the issues with the fire department, we advocate that if you do move forward, that makes a lot of sense. And so we just want you to be made aware that there is a timeline associated with that, which we know of anybody in this room you're very familiar with. And so, but we're not saying you have to meet that. We're not saying that you have to raise any revenue, quite frankly. Just presenting the problem, educating the public that there is a problem, showcasing different ideas for a solution, getting feedback from the community if they support any of those solutions, and then seeing if the city council wants to rally behind one of those and move forward.
thank you. Mayor Middleton, do you have any questions for Mr. Ledbetter?
I think the only question I guess I have is Chief due back on the 30th for continuing, or is he finished with the series?
Oh yeah, no, on the 30th is a
Okay,
special
exactly.
meeting for
Okay.
sure. He'll be here for that. And then we're going to continue. I mean, we're going to have a talk. We meet every other Wednesday with Jay Perkins, Phil Anzo, Retta Hogan, and the fire chief. And so I think that we'll continue them, but we'll gain better understanding at that point what you guys want to do on the 30th. I mean, we advocate that you just get some more meetings scheduled, but if we don't do that, we would probably, even if you do, I kind of advocate the more information, even if it's the same information at the start of every meeting. We may have new people at the city council meetings. This is a great opportunity to just remind everybody what our issues are and anyone new. And a lot of the times you have to hear the issues or hear what the fire chief is saying multiple times before it starts to make a lot of sense. So we'll probably keep them at the start of each meeting because I think it just makes sense at this moment.
Great, thank you. I think that's I think it's Councilman Baker, Chair Baker agrees. I think it's good that we have him come back until we decide if it's going to go on the ballot or not, because like I said, there is a problem. And I think for our citizens and also for our council to know exactly, the problems he's facing. And then if we do go, our citizens need to know why we're going on a ballot to raise these funds, because it is in dire straits over there of at the fire department. So the more he comes back, I think just the information that he provides to us as well as the citizens need to know as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, since this is the communications meeting and we're discussing how to communicate, if the two of you want to provide some input, but we're thinking on the 30th of just blasting the grapevine, quite frankly, to ask people to come participate at this meeting, and then advocating at that meeting to probably have the council say, we want 2 workshops, give us one at the community center and give us another one maybe a month later or a couple weeks, because there is some time constraint on whether or not you want to go after the November election. So Just because of that, that is the backbone of this meeting, is how we communicate with the public. And so the 30th meeting here, we hope to have a good turnout, but we're advocating to have the clerk make some postings pretty much after, once we get the agenda posted, just advocating, trying to get people down here. And then if we have some forethought within that meeting on the 30th for more future, what I would just say workshops or special city council workshop meetings at another location, we would take those dates and immediately get that information out, just trying to get people in so they can tell you whether they love it or hate it, quite frankly.
Thank you. I'm actually really excited about this. I think that the city of Yreka is being really proactive in getting this information out to the public in a timely manner, way before the election. And I'm extremely excited about the possibility of workshops. And I will just repeat this on the 30th, but I'd like to see workshops held at different times during the day so that we can draw in maybe a different demographic depending on that time. So thank you. And I'll go ahead now and open it up for public comment. If any members of the public would like to speak on this.
Louise Gliado, Yreka. I actually would like to say something about it because I was at the city council meeting when you had the fire chief speaking. And I remember that Steve Radford got up and asked if he could ask the question and he was told no. So when the fire chief did his presentation, we did the public speaking or public outreach before because we didn't know what the fire chief was going to say. So after, when the fire chief talked, a lot of us had some questions. And I think if you want to communicate effectively to the public, that would be a good time to at least ask a few questions of the fire chief, because that would have been more meaningful to the public when it was on their mind then. I've looked at his slide presentation a couple times. I've invited him to come to the Patriots meeting to talk to the community, but he said he's busy all through February. So I don't know when he'd be coming, but he has been invited. And I think that would be important. And the other question I'd like to ask is, where's your defibrillator? Do you know what I'm talking about? You're all, I know you can't speak. Do you have a defibrillator at the city council meetings? That occurred to me after what happened with the fire department coming to our meeting that we had. So I'm just wondering, is there one here? And have you folks been shown how to use it? Do you know about it? I don't know. I guess you can't answer questions, but that would be one of my questions I would have. So thank you for listening.
If you don't mind, because it's a little bit less formal, Louise, this meeting. So normally I'll just kind of chime in when you do have questions. But yeah, that's a good idea. I think we need to figure that out. I think ultimately we don't want to do question and answer per se, maybe more along the lines of we can write down the questions as people come up. And then maybe we need different formats as well. Jerry did talk to me about your meeting, and really the only thing I told him is that it's inappropriate for him to go to your meeting before January 30th. And then he just needs to wait till after that meeting, because I don't want him to give a presentation to the public that he has not given to the city council. I just think that wouldn't be fair to the city council. So he's available January 31st or and beyond. So I told him, go to the February meeting. We want to come to your meetings and get the word out and just get information to people. So we're very appreciative that you invited him. We'll have to find out about the defibrillator. We know that we have a first aid kit in the break room, but we're bringing to the attention of the community an issue and a level of education that obviously here, even at City Hall, we need to up our game when it comes to emergency response and just preparedness, I guess.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other public comment on item A, we'll move to item B, which is a discussion and feedback from the city manager's newsletter.
So yes, thank you, Chair Baker. So ultimately, for those in the audience and Miss Osborne, yeah, we did one of these. It came out in the utility bill. It was slightly different than the normal newsletter within the utility bill. We have this whole intent of this meeting and this ad hoc is to really figure out how to communicate better with the public and what opportunities exist to get information out to the public, because a lot of folks just don't understand all the different things that are happening, because you got to sit through meetings that sometimes, they take a few hours, and maybe one of these things got approved, or maybe none of these things were discussed. And so over time, we've accumulated a number of projects. And so ultimately, the intent was kind of a state of the city, an end of year recap, a year in review on the year 2023. And so we ended up putting this together. It really is just a format on Word that we found that looks like an old timey newspaper. And then we had Gold Nugget print, and then Emily worked with the Opportunity Center. I think we actually had the folding done by then. Either way, this thing went out in December. For the most part, I got relatively positive feedback. I mean, I didn't get any negative feedback, but I got just overwhelmingly more positive feedback for people to have an understanding of what's going on in the city. Some people care more about other things. And so I think it was nice to give an update on the Ringy Pool project, because I don't think a lot of people understood we were still moving forward and currently have someone under contract. But looking at this, I kind of see this as an opportunity on an annual basis to do a state of the city moving forward, and just pretty much once a year, a reflection that would go out. I don't know there's a lot of value. I mean, some of these projects are just going to take a long period of time, quite frankly, and there may not be information every quarter to disseminate out, but we kind of have the backbone of different opportunities for projects for the clerk to be getting on the grapevine and discussing here throughout the next 2 quarters. But I guess leave it to everyone else to maybe give feedback on their perception of how this went.
Thank you. Mayor Middleton?
I was stopped actually probably by 3 people in the grocery store saying that they liked this format better. It was easier to read, and they didn't need the glossy format, but they said to let everybody know, each one of them, like I said, just 3, but I haven't had any negative. But when you're stopped in the store and get a compliment, it's always good. But they liked it. They said it was easier to read, it was better, and they said kudos. That's all I have.
Thank you. I also received actually a lot of positive comment about this. I have a significant number of people in and out of my home during the month with just various social activities. And I just laid this out on my coffee table, and everybody picked it up and commented about how nice it was to see something that looked like a newspaper. And even people from out of town that don't necessarily follow the city of Yreka felt. I asked them, I said, well, do you feel like you have a good idea of what the city's doing? And they all responded, yes. The only feedback that I got that was less than positive was initially, I think this went out on some glossy paper, and there was concern about the cost of that paper. So that was it, but that seemed to have taken care of itself. But I really like this. And Mr. Ledbetter, I'm only disappointed in the fact that you didn't call it Letters from Ledbetter. But seriously, I think that we really need to do a better job of letting people know exactly what we're doing at the city, because hearing information on the grapevine is not, in my opinion, not the best way to get a well-rounded picture of what's going on. And so I would hope, I had mentioned this in a previous meeting, I would hope at some point that the city would consider doing a state of the city meeting, actual meeting at once a year at the beginning of the year. And I think that this is a great addition to that. So.
Madam Chair?
Sure.
So Jason, we were here at our last meeting, and then most of our crowd exited after what they wanted, after a subject. But when he gave his mayor report at the meeting, he gave a year in review. And it was unfortunate that most of our crowd, except for 4 people, exited before he was able to do that presentation. So hopefully next time, maybe we could do it beforehand, because he gave a year in review for 2023 of what the city did and what the city accomplished and what we're looking for in 2024. And it's unfortunate that our citizens in this audience left before that, because it was an excellent presentation, Mr. Ledbetter and the staff that worked on that to really let our citizens know what was going on. I mean, it was a jam-packed year that the council was a part of. A lot of hard decisions, but a lot of work that was put in by the staff and city council members. And it was unfortunate that most of our citizens left and missed it. But he did gave an excellent presentation of what went on in 2023. And it was a good, 25-minute presentation, probably 20 minutes. It was substantial, but anyways, it was great. And I wish more people would have stayed. I wish more people would have filled our audience out here to see that, because it was a great reminder the hard work that we're putting in and that the staff is putting in.
Thank you. And maybe next year, something to consider is maybe having the state of the city at a separate time from a city council meeting. We could even go as far as like serving coffee and cookies.
I like the sound of this, but I will say that's one of the things that we would advocate out of this meeting is we're looking for action items. And so we have our clerk here. That's something that, oh yeah, our assistant city manager, we could extract a video clip, but I do think that beyond all of that, to get back to what you're stating, because I think an action item is basically when we bring that schedule forward for next, for I guess 25, is let's get rid of the first meeting. And let's just say that's the state of the city meeting, like that first January meeting. And let's do that possibly at the community theater, if possible. And it'll be fixed by then. And like, let's do that in a different venue and let's advertise that and let's start that process. Cause I think that's what you're advocating for, is just really having a meeting that doesn't have consent, doesn't have any other item, is really just, for lack of a better word, it's celebratory for what just happened over the year. And then it's gaining feedback from the community as to what they want to see happen. Right. And I think, I guess that's what I'm advocating for. That should be an action item out of this comms ad hoc. And I think that's what I'm hearing. Let's kill it. Let's kill that first meeting and let's just now always make that a state of the city meeting.
I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And then just one last thing is just that we do still have the glossy. We still have the glossy newsletter. We can cancel that. I think we'll save a few bucks, right? Emily's looking happy about that. We can do it on the black and white. On the cheaper paper, and we'll save money. And it is not this per se, that's just the quarterly newsletter that we normally do that has some projects. Matt works extensively on that. He did a ton of work on the Highway 3 and multiple other projects were on those newsletters. So we could investigate doing it more, possibly even in this style, hypothetically. I don't know, but definitely moving away from, I know there was some frustration over the cost of that. It's not a huge cost.
Right.
But that ultimately we can simplify it.
Thank you.
Anyway, just some brief history on that. It costs more to locally print black and white than it was to outsource with the glossy.
Wow.
Which was very strange. We did get a quote on that a few years back for the same reason.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Mr. Ledbetter, I just want to commend you. I think that this was, in my opinion, a huge win for us, a huge success. And having said that, I'll open it up for public comment at this time.
Louise Gliano, Yreka. First of all, Jason, I think that's a great idea of having a yearly meeting at the beginning. I think you'd get more people to come who maybe normally don't come to meetings because frankly, a lot of people aren't interested in the finances and things like that. But they should be, but they're not. I think this is a good idea to put it in the bill. But however, I wonder if you're aware that a lot of us who pay our bill and it's automatically taken out, what I could do when I get the bill, I toss it. They send me a bill even though it's automatically taken out of my checking account. I figured I have to pay it no matter what. I'm not going to argue. I use the water, so I have to pay for it. And also one of the things I learned when we did the protest forms out in front of Walmart is a lot of people stopped and wanted to do the protest, but they don't get a utility bill because they're renters. And when I looked at the demographics of Yreka and how many people rent or how many people live in RVs, because they don't get the utility bills either, because they pay it through their rent, which I was not aware of. And so unfortunately, you're going to miss a population of over 1,000 people who won't be getting this newsletter. So maybe that's something the communication committee might want to consider, how you can reach those people, because a lot of them don't take newspapers like I don't. A lot of them aren't active on Facebook or don't do the, the grapevine. And oftentimes the stuff you get on the you can't really rely on how accurate it is anyway. So that was something maybe you might want to think about, because these are usually young people and we want to keep young citizens here. So something to think about, but I applaud you on starting the newsletter. I thought it was a good idea. It's a good beginning, and I'll not throw out my bill anymore. Thank you.
Just to clarify too, is that there are some renters that do pay. They have a different setup where they do actually get the bill. So it's not every renter that does not receive a bill. Some of them have a different lease agreement, so they do get the bill, but that's a great point. And that's kind of the whole point of this meeting, and advocating for pretty much what I've been advocating for here, but it's not going to be free, is contracting out some type of PIO audiovisual service, which basically would take this and it would make it into video clips, and it would be possibly interviews with city council members, interviews with Public Works, the director of Public Works on the scene while they're actually doing work, and then getting these vignette videos. And I should have, are you capable of showing your video today, Matt, or no? Okay.
No, the computer won't hold it.
Okay.
I don't know what the setup we have for the meeting.
Matt did an incredible voiceover video by himself with Measure C and just explained everything. And it's this beautiful video with Matt's voice voicing over. It shows Minor Street and just talks about chip sealing. And so it'd be the same concept where we would be able to put those out on the grapevine and then house them on the front page of our website so that we can freshen up our website, give people a reason to want to go there and see what's going on. And first we would just hit them with the grapevine. And I think that we would start to see, that wouldn't get everybody right, but between the newsletter, the grapevine, the website, and the meetings, at that point, we're communicating highly effectively, in my opinion. But I have gotten some quotes, and I would just advocate, and we could talk about after we get past Matt's item. That's my goal for this ad hoc, is that we end with the ability to say, you know what, let's trial something for $20,000 or $15,000 moving into fiscal year 24-25. Work with the Siskiyou Media Council or another outlet. I did interview a young kid, or just met with a young kid that has his own company that does this type of work. He showed me a lot of the work he's done. He came up with a quote. We do have the ability to contract through Siskiyou Media Council, who he would then work for, to do a number of these vignette videos. And then I have a discussion with Shasta College and a possibility of an intern coming up here and doing similar things. So I just still advocate that at the end of this meeting, more than a policy, just a plan of how we would do videos, quite frankly. I think that is really the win, to get information in front of the public and hold their attention for 90 seconds with what's going on.
Thank you.
Lorenzo Love, Yreka resident. Yeah, this is an excellent newsletter, but I want to reinforce what Louise said about not everyone getting it. And some of the people who did get it are absentee landlords who don't care about this. In order to get this information to the maximum amount of people, you could put this on the city Facebook page. As is, it's probably too big of a format to be very readable, but there's 6 articles here. And you could break these 6 articles out and put them up individually. And that would be more digestible than throwing all at once at somebody. And that would get this information out to far more people than just in the utility bill.
Thank you.
If it's okay with the council, I think we're gonna do just that. I mean, I think
I
we'll
think
work
that's-
with Cindy and then try to, on a weekly basis over the next 6 weeks, get all 6 articles essentially out there.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Love.
Hi, Don East, local citizen. The thing I want to say too, I looked at this, I think this was really great. Whoever put the work together of this, I think the newsletter is a neat idea. But maybe to further introduce myself to some of you who don't know me, I've been sort of involved in the city off and on for quite a while. I was actually involved in Channel 4 way back when Channel 4 used to exist. How many of you remember Channel 4?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It serves some real purposes. I know that it was expensive, and that was part of the reason some of the things went on. I'm very familiar with the history of some of that went on, but I think there's other possibilities for communication. And all I would like to say, Jason, I really liked your lead on. I thought you were talking to me when you started this last little bit, and I want to thank you for that. Okay. But anyway, the other thing I would like to say to you and anybody that's interested, I'm willing to help in some way or be involved in some way, listen, talk, whatever, just make myself available. So I'm here, and communications has always been an important part of my history.
Sorry to interject here, but if you want, the Siskiyou Media Council has reformed. And so the
Oh.
channel, so if you would like to be participating in those meetings on some level, we meet monthly. It's primarily Yreka and the city of Weed city managers. And then we have a number of other board members, but we're the ones that both have local stations. There's a transfer happening where there's going to be an app essentially that you can download onto your television set or onto your
Oh.
phone, and you would be able to watch the channel. And they're trying to start to program it. So might be interesting for you to get involved there since you do
Yeah.
have a history with Channel 4. And so you have my contact. I know Claudia does. So
Yeah.
you know how to get
Are they still producing information down at the college?
No, unfortunately,
so.
they're based out of now Yreka COS campus. We really would advocate for COS to get this program up and running back down in Weed, but for whatever reason, we're having a hard time convincing them of that, which is very disappointing because really, quite frankly, I think now we're transitioning into audio visual at the high schools because really this is all you need hypothetically to
Oh,
teach.
yeah,
I mean,
that's-
yeah, you could market yourself, right? If you're a senior or you're a junior or you're in high school, this tool will help you market yourself. You can film, you can record, you can post. I mean, so there needs to be a class for that locally, even if there's not an industry to get into, because the overlap of the industry exists for.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Okay. How do I know about these meetings and when are they?
Yeah, if you just email me, I'll get you all the information.
Thank you, sir. I
Yep.
will do that.
Thank you. Any other public comment about the city manager's newsletter?
Jan Osborne, Yreka. I felt this would be a good opportunity to bring up a subject I brought up to the council before. It's about the loose dogs and the barking dogs.
Excuse me, Mrs. Osborne, I'm actually going to stop you because it's not on, that issue is not on our agenda. And that would be an item that you could bring to public comment for the city council.
But my intention, Madam Chairman, was just to suggest that the newsletter be used, at least sometimes, to put out to the public. I'm aware that the dogs aren't on the agenda, but the newsletter is. And I want to say that I think it's great to read all of these things that are going on, but I would like to see some information about barking dogs, and that it's really not allowed in Yreka. It maybe publish that little folder, which I have got many copies of and put around on neighbors' doors to see that if it'll make a difference. And loose dogs, and I know that those kinds of things, if you just put the regulations in there so people are aware of what the rules are about dogs. For me, it's a quality of life issue. I've been a runner and a bicyclist all my adult life, but in Yreka, I don't do either because of loose dogs. So I think it would be valuable if people knew, and actually if it were enforced, what the regulations are and what the fines are. Thank you for indulgence.
Thank you.
Jan, we would be, should be, more than happy to add that to the quarterly newsletter that we continue to do. Yes. The quarterly newsletter that we produce every quarter. I'm not saying it can't be. I'm just saying I'm happy it's coming soon. So we are always looking for ideas to add into the newsletter.
My point was, you're going to be communicating, please communicate to follow the laws.
Thank you. Okay. Our next agenda item is discussion on Fall Creek incident and public outreach. And I had asked that this item be added to our communications ad hoc meeting, just because I'm very interested in hearing from our Public Works Director how he felt that the communication between staff and with the public went. If there's perhaps anything that we, the city council, can support you in with that communication. So I'm just really interested in hearing from Mr. Bray about this, Mr. Ledbetter.
Yeah, thank you. And he's prepared to, I mean, he did an incredible job from my perspective, getting so much information out and really managing that information the way he went about posting that on the Grapevine. And so ultimately through this process, I'm sure there'll be some questions just about what transpired that event. But for the purposes of this meeting, the event is really irrelevant, and it's really more of the communication to the public,
Yes.
just for the folks in the audience. But without further ado, I'll let Mr. Bray take over.
Thank you. So I didn't really prepare a presentation of sorts. I just pulled down some data from the internet from what we did. As you know, we don't have a daily print paper. I can't run down to KSYC and ask Kevin Sponsler to put me on the radio mic anymore to really get it out there. So in an instance such as the Fall Creek shutdown eventually, we lean to Facebook, which is what we have. And we just honestly didn't have time to get onto the website at that point. So I thought in the heat of the moment, just hop on Facebook. And there's been a lot of talk this evening about the Grapevine. And I just want to clarify, we don't post to the Grapevine. We post to the city Facebook page, and then we cross post that post to the Grapevine.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the truth is on our city page. If I've posted something from Public Works, it goes there. If I think it's big enough, like that one, I will share it over to the Grapevine. And I pulled some down on I've got demographics here on who actually watches us. So I think I'll start there. It's been a battle. It's technology. Not everybody uses it. But those that do, we have about 2,000 people that are following the city Facebook page. Of that, 30.7% are men and 69.3% are women. They're kind of split. There's very few down between the 18 to 24 range. You start seeing the spikes in the 35 to 44, and then it drops off a little bit and then spikes back up around the 65 plus. So just that this morning, pulling down the demographics, you know, there is a lot of technology that is easily available, not only to the young ones, but to the elderly. Like I say, I don't have a paper that I can call and get these in. So we just throw them out there. 1,000 of those folks, 1,076 of them are based in Yreka, and then it splits out. You got 163 in Montague, then you drop 60s in Weed and Grenada, talking number of people that follow us on our page. You know, Etna's 58, Fort Jones 48, Hornbrook. It's the folks that drive in, right? And then I use it daily. I look at the Forest Mountain road conditions to, those are my people. They've already made it to work. You know, they come over at 6, I hop on there and there's pictures of the summit and I cruise over. It's like not a real-time live cam, but I use that technology every day. And I know a lot of folks do. A lot of folks rely on that. That's the reason that we cross post. And that's where these numbers get crazy quick. So back in, what was it, November, we had the shutdown of the water, and I chose to go ahead with a ration. And that is big news to get out to the public when, hey, use less water. That's directly affecting your life. And I understand that. The post before that, I'll just say, like, may have been shared over. Looks like it was shared over, saying that we're going to be closed for the November holiday and there Thanksgiving and stuff. We reached 1,500 people. But by the time it was all said and done, and these are actual post reaches, this is actually, I won't get into it, but they have post impressions and post reaches. So my layperson understanding is if it's a reach and it hits these numbers, somebody saw it on their screen. It doesn't mean that they read it, but it went by, they scrolled past it, they saw it, and stopped on it for a minute maybe. If they clicked on it, then that's an engagement. When all was said and done on the Fall Creek issue, I had 32,032 people that had reached with that cross post to the Grapevine. That's obviously not just the city, people going to the city Facebook page because we shut the water off, right? There was there's almost 7,000 people engaged, which means they stopped on it, they clicked on it, they read it, they shared it, things of that nature. That's huge in Siskiyou County to a guy like me. When I'm trying to get out word that don't use the water, please, we're trying to, you know, hold it back. And you can see but that it's all said and done. I'd gone through day one and I let everybody know that there was auto dialer rationing notifications being sent. I decided to pull the trigger on that pretty early because we'd like to get that out as fast as we can, let people know something's coming. There was issues. I just went through it in as much detail as I could without boring folks. And I just went through update number 1 and I put a time, and update number 2 and I put a time, and update number 3 and I put a time, and I kept keeping everyone involved. And that's why the reach got so thick, is because I didn't make more posts that they had to go find it. They'd already seen it. It's the same one. It's gaining traction. And it was probably the biggest one I've ever had to do, but it worked. And from my side of the house, I got probably more compliments for that action than I have in the last 15 years working for the city, except for when I used to mow Minor Street Park, and it looked really nice. But, you know, and I took the opportunity to reach out further. It wasn't just, hey, don't use your water, don't use your water. I was trying to drop in a little bit of humor, not really dry humor because it was a water issue, but I did. I got to throw out there at this, you know, once the capacity of 7.98 million gallons is achieved, who knew that? Right? I was trying to teach a little bit through this, is just drop some facts on folks and say, wow, 8 million gallons, that's a lot of water. Yeah. So I was more than pleased with the way that it was received, the way it turned out, the way it reached. Tried to keep it short and sweet, threw in some pictures. And then when it was all done, I put a now back to your regularly scheduled programming, kind of, hey, we're good to go, everybody. And then I jumped back in the next day, I believe. So that post effectively quit. I didn't engage it anymore. And I came back in and threw another one up saying again, just a separate post, that rationing had been lifted, just to clarify. And that one hit almost 6,500 people. So, and I know not all of those are Yrekans, right? We have the issue that the renter doesn't necessarily get the newsletter or doesn't get on Facebook. And that's, I was explaining to Mr. Ledbetter this morning, it's a problem of our times, is that there's so much technology and they're so readily available. You can choose what news you want to believe in and to trust. And so it's our job as the communications, committee to put that together. And how does that look to our citizens? And with the demographic, the age ranges, you're looking at TikTok, you're looking at, Snapchat's dead, and but there's so much of it. It was so much easier for me when I could go talk to Kevin Sponsler and say, hey, Kevin, throw me on the radio, man. I gotta do this. Or go down to Mike Slazewski at the paper and say, hey, I need a headline tomorrow morning. And that's what we would have done 20 years ago.
Right.
And then, it still works. We had a few complaints. One of them was, I'm not on Facebook, and I heard this just out on the street. I was like, great, you heard. Right? Because the word of mouth in Yreka is how you get it out there. So, I mean, word of mouth it's been my whole life, 50 years living here. When your neighbors move, and then everybody knows. It's just, but really, to get back to that, the marketing of it, this really is a marketing task. And I was talking with Jason this morning, I'm not a professional PIO. I'm not a public information officer. The Forest Service has one. They have an army of them. That's their entire job, is to just push that out. We don't have budget for that. So we do the best we can with the tools available. And the one I had in my pocket those days when I was out in the field was this thing. But yeah, all in all, I could bore you forever, but I would run that steam that I'd built up. We had people looking at us on Facebook, and there was people following our actual page, and it bumped up to 60 people overnight, and another 80 here and there. So we gained some followers, some people that thought, the city actually tells us stuff on their Facebook page. Like, maybe I should click follow. So that's good. We need to push that harder. That's not my job. I don't know how to do that. I'm a lay person terms. I can tell you how we go find followers, and some of it costs money and some of it doesn't. But really, in my heart, I think it's that we put out content, because that's 2024 is content creation, right? So if we have content like Jason's been talking about for a few months, these 3-minute clips of me out there on Burgess Street standing over a sewer pipe, people are going to watch that for about 1.5 minutes. And if they hear 3/4 of what I said, great. It's those little tiny snippets. We used to, as Americans, have 3-minute attention spans, because that's how long our commercials were in between our, Ed Sullivan show and stuff. And it's been ingrained into our American psyche that, you have little snippets. And so that's why I agree with Lorenzo, that is a great idea. Break these down. I agree with Retta. We can extract the video off of Jason's last presentation that folks missed. That's really how we're going to get the word out, in my opinion. And I'm just a pipes and fittings and people guy for the city, but I would like to explore further, and maybe not tonight, but what does a PIO look like? Because that's cold hard cash that we would be spending that I don't get to go put in the ground for potholes, because it's general fund money, more than likely. And then, it's paying the cops. It's the same story. It's the soapbox that I ground into the floor in here over the years about, maintenance costs money, and most of it's general fund. So, but I think it's important. It all comes back to the daily paper or the 1039, So this is what we have, and that's what we used. It's funny. I'll just finish here, because I rode that wave, so to speak, up to 32,000. And then I went out and jumped in and said, hey, there's a paving. By the way, we have some other stuff coming. You know, I think I said in other news in Yreka Public Works, we've got paving coming. Little snippets about who we awarded it to and when we hope to start. That hit 11,500 people a couple days later. Then I let it sit down and I threw one just up on a water line that we were working on, just a small little project as part of a bigger project. And I didn't share that over to the Grapevine. That was just our page, and it still hit 711 people. And I was trying to test out the demographics, like, you know, what actually happens when I share this over to the Grapevine. It's black and white right here. Along that line, and to get off of my story, just recently we posted up the warming center opening up. That thing shared to the Grapevine immediately tapped 16,500 people. I have a job opening right now in the maintenance division I put up last week and shared to the Grapevine. I'm sitting at 8,800 people. I've got 15 job applications out of the 8,800 people that saw it, but that's pretty damn good. 8,800 people have seen that we're hiring. Grandma sees it. She tells her grandson, Jimmy, hey, the city, go apply there. And that's where the word of mouth in Yreka works for me in my department. So I think that's all kind of the interesting stuff that I had. Some of the 90-day, I can break it all out through the new professional pages from Meta, which is Facebook. You break it out 28, 60, I can export whatever. So, and I do pay attention to this. Not every day, because you don't pay me to be on Facebook, but in times like this and in times of strife, it's the best thing we've got. In the last 28 days, we've with all of these posts combined and everything that's laying out there with people just cruising around Facebook scrolling, we've hit 57,000 people. Most of that's because it hit the Grapevine. It's not on our page. So it's the power of the Grapevine, right? I hate to say it. When it first came out, I thought, yeah, it's just a bunch of people complaining, but it's not. It's not a lot of people complaining, and that the data's in here. I had like 11 people gave me a mad face because we turned the water off. You know, there's thousands of people, clicking on wow, and you know, but it's telling. You know, the data's telling. We were looking at just rolling on our normal numbers, like every day, no big deal, you know, posts, we're going to be closed, we got a job opening, things like that. The water issue final update received 1,400% more reactions than our average median post. Both of them. The other one, my final update of the mainstream, that was my second one that I'd posted that hit 6,000 people. My main post that had 32,000 people on it. That post was 10,100% more comments than your median post. They're out there. We can reach them because this proves it. It's not the best way. It doesn't get everybody. But if you guys have better ideas or more ideas, you know, more of these, more snippets, more, I think staying on it, you know, one a week, something twice a week. We're Americans, we have short attention spans. You got to keep them engaged, right? So. That's my story.
Thank you. Mr. Ledbetter, did you have anything to add?
Just because I think we'll have general questions and comments and kind of some maybe explore what other ideas were, but I just think that the way Matt did it sequentially on the Grapevine or on Facebook was, I thought, really clever. And you knew which post you were looking at, right? You didn't even need to look at the date. It was all up there, but it told you what number. And then you started to say, okay, what date is that from? So I just thought that the communication on this item was extremely strong for what tools we had available to us ultimately. That was pretty much all I had to add, other than I think if we had the capability of a contracted like PIO or AV person, not somebody that was their full-time job, but you're contracting out at like say $20,000 a year. We could have brought them in. We could have done actual, instead of doing words, then we could have done a combination of words and video, and we could have posted that, and then we could have had that person manage our website and put that on the front page of the website, and we could have gotten more interesting, I think, if we had that tool, which I'm advocating to get in the future, because I just think that this had a ton of reach, but we're just more apt to just listen to somebody or see somebody telling us what's going on rather than read. Although I think this proved everybody was really wanting to know what the post was going to say. So people were definitely reading the grapevine.
Thank you. Mayor Middleton?
No, I think what I received, what I was reading and sharing, your post and the city post on Facebook, or and then also receiving the updates via the phone saying what's going on. For me, it worked perfectly. I know some people might have had problems, but I think I even received 4 calls for some reason, 2 back to back on each one. So I got overloaded, which I didn't mind. I'd rather have an extra 2 phone calls letting me know what's going on than none. So I thought it was communicated well. Our system for people who are signed up did well. So I commend you on the communication and just the updates we received from Mr. Ledbetter as well, to us, as well as council members, and just reaching the public. So thank you very much. I think it went fine. Yeah, and then hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Something will. And
Don't say
and
that. See, I was
because, well,
thinking,
that's
I
what
was
you pay
thinking
me to be
positive.
here for.
I was thinking positive.
So,
See,
along the line, I'll speak to the auto dialer really quick, if you don't mind. It's been a very long time since we had to hit the auto dialer button. And we found not glitches, but it's just the way that the program is programmed. If you are a bill payer and you put your name and phone number on your bill, the computer calls you. If it called you multiple times, you hung up too early or you didn't say hello. It'll hear you say hello, so it knows that it's been answered, and then it's supposed to turn off. We had it set to 4 calls. I had people calling me saying, turn it off. And I said, I can't. We hit the button. It's like a nuclear blast. It's over. So we shortened that down for the call back when we said everything's okay. And that was a little bit better. But we did get folks saying, hey, I didn't get a call. Someone told me. It's like, great. Someone told you. Word of mouth again. It works in Yreka. Imagine that. But no, it's not a perfect system. Facebook isn't a perfect system. The paper's not a perfect system. The KDRV news is not a perfect system. It just takes me back to that. There's too many options. There is no perfect, elegant solution to getting the word out. I don't have a bat signal yet. Maybe we could look into that as a committee. Give me a bat signal. But yeah, it's the auto dialer's a tool. Facebook was a tool. I wish we had a radio station as a tool and a local daily paper, so I could call Skip, say, hey, I need your headline tomorrow. But yeah, we are looking into that as a staff level for who would. Okay, here's the issue. We can add your phone number to that dialer. And that's a pretty big lift. That could be a very expensive lift. How do we get the word out that we want to get your number to put it on the list? It's right. We're just chasing our tail. It's how do we get that word out if we chose to do that? So I would veer away from that concept, but yeah, it's just a tool and it doesn't work perfectly.
We did correct a lot of wrong phone numbers though.
That was a silver lining. We've a lot of phone calls coming in saying, hey, I didn't get a call. It's like, oh, that's because your husband's name and numbers on that. Well, we divorced 5 years ago. Well, we didn't know that. You know, there was a lot of that. And, you know, that's again, the communications type of thing is slip it into the bill and say, hey, is it updated? You know, take a look at your bill. Is that correct? But then you're relying on, those are just the people that you can put it in the mail to. And around we go again.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a 2024 problem.
Yeah.
Nationally, globally, where you get your news.
So, you know, I just want to thank you because I know that from my experience in working in government, I think that it's so important that when you have a critical issue that comes down, it's just absolutely incumbent upon us to take a look at how we responded, how effective that response was, and how can we do better, and not necessarily better because something went sideways, but how we can more effectively reach more people. And you know what, you made some excellent points, and I just want to say that I'm so excited to see that you took the time to look at the data from Facebook, because it would be so easy to just, you know, after the fact, after this emergency is over, is go, man, it's over. Okay, on to the next thing. But again, I just want to say that I think it's critical that we take a look at our response. And having said that, please bear with me because I am ignorant in so much of this, but the auto dialer system that the city has, is that connected to Code Red at all?
No, Code Red is a separate system that you sign up for after someone tells you to sign up for. And we discussed that as a possibility early on, you know, when the auto dialer calls were coming back in and saying, hey, they're calling 4 times. But it's the same style system and they're separate. So, right, you have to sign up for it if you want it.
Yeah. So that might be, you know, I could just be all wet because again, I don't have a lot of expertise in this area, but would the city benefit from reaching out to the Code Red people when we have an emergency like this and say, you know, can we cross our systems? Can we, you know, get all the Yreka numbers out of this system, or can you make this call on our behalf? I had another brilliant thought that just flittered through my mind. So give me just a second, because I'm sure it was really important. I think that I want to just jump off into, I think this is a really good example why in this day and age, because of the changes in the styles of communications and the tools that we use to communicate, that a public information officer is critical. That was my brilliant thought of the day. So.
Yeah, I mean, we agree with you. I think there's an opportunity to kind of trial something on contract. It wouldn't be too expensive. I mean, there would be a cost, but it wouldn't be salary, benefits, and a pension cost. I will say that I think that you are correct. I think that was the opportunity. And I think that as far as Code Red, or I'm not even sure if they've now, I heard a rumor that they've transitioned away from Code Red. Like you had to sign up for Code Red, but they were transitioning away from that. But I do believe that's probably needs to be a conversation that we have with the community development director when we do the safety element. It's kind of a discussion about that. I think that's something we could put on this resiliency officer position, our relationship with county and state OES and CAL FIRE, quite frankly, and even Chief Gilman, because I think he has the ability to do some, reverse 911, right? So he can just hit absolutely everybody that that we could ultimately go in that direction on something like this. We certainly would probably look to the council to gain direction on utilizing that tool, just to make sure that they're comfortable with us utilizing that tool, depending on the scale of the emergency. I think this emergency was right on the edge of that, right? We needed to get the word out, and Matt did a fabulous job. But I would say that would be, when you look at these incidents, you're always looking, how could you possibly get better? And I think that there's something to be said about emergency preparedness on every emergency within the county and how we're communicating with people. And then the city council's expectation from state and county OES on the McKinney fire, right? How are we all notified about that? And how then can we utilize that? So I agree with both of those statements.
Thank you. And Mr. Bray, I just want to commend you. I thought that you really did do an outstanding job of getting information out as quickly as possible. And I just want to say thank you. And I appreciated the humor that you interjected into your releases. So
Thank you. Sometimes all we can do is laugh it off.
yeah, exactly. So do we have any public comment on this item, item D, excuse me, item C?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say, Matt, that was an outstanding presentation. All right. For someone who's been involved in Facebook and other things, I think I have 6 different Facebook channels that I've worked on over the period of time. And to hear your report on the statistics and what you've looked into and how you've understood and worked with that, I know what it takes. And I must say, I'm very impressed. So I'm sure when you talk about it, a lot of times it kind of, most people, but I really heard what you said, and I thought you really did an extra nice report. It made me think about this, and since we are talking about communications, right? I'm sure every one of you in here is aware of AI and what AI means, right? Anybody not know what that means? Artificial intelligence. Questions, any? I guess that's not appropriate at this time, is it? Okay, the big thing that's around the corner is AGI, artificial general intelligence. And when we talk about communication and communications for the future, this is going to be huge. Okay, and essentially what it is involved in, and I'll make a brief comment, and you'll all go, huh, what's he talking about? But we're talking about machines that will gain the ability to think, ask questions, and answer questions at the same capacity or above most humans. And that will be one of the kinds of things that we'll have to deal with in the future as we're communicating and looking for getting our information out. It's going to be big, and it's going to be a while. But anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. So we're going to move along to item D, the development of mission statement, objectives, and timeline deliverables.
So yeah, this is the city manager once again. So ultimately on this is just our placeholder for the meeting as a whole. And so I think you've given us some action items today to explore. One of them being the first city council of meeting of the year should be the state of the city. The possibility of dropping the cost or exploring a black and white and non-glossy option for the quarterly newsletter. Doing this state of the city newsletter essentially at least once a year at the end of the year. And I really at this moment want to just explore the idea and the possibility as to should I be bringing to you at the next meeting some hypothetical work plans. I do have a work plan that someone gave me with the cost attached to it on what they would look like. I wouldn't necessarily call them a PIO, but something that would cover that type of service. And they have a number of videos per month, a number of posts per month, and along those lines, so we can have a better understanding of what that possibly would cost. And I think that's really where we're headed towards is then making a suggestion, really not necessarily to city council, but a suggestion to city council via the budget that would come and that would be rolling into next fiscal year, to have approved to have a line item for anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 to trial something like this. And so this is just a placeholder if people have more action items that they would like, or even more discussion topics for the next meeting. And then the last item too is just it's literally just AI, I guess, on the back end of the meeting minutes of just the
Yeah.
computer dictating.
Mayor Middleton?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great idea that we explore for the public information officer, maybe a contract just to look, as you said, that's where I head in the future, if it's going to be a possibility, for us and financially. And I had a thought as we're kind of talking about different things is maybe somewhere on the newsletter, we could have like a did you know section, like, did you know you can pay your water bill online, and then promote our website? Did you know you can explore our rental facilities in the city of Yreka and promote our website? Just giving ideas for people to go to our website, that all those resources are right at their fingertips if they visit our website, on every department, billing, dog licensing, everything's right here. So if we did you know section and feature something every newsletter that they could do that, I think that would probably be a good idea, because I don't see anywhere on here the city's website.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that that's kind of by design at the moment, because it's and that's hopefully what comes out of this, is that we want to revamp the website. We currently have a virtual webmaster, and right now they're just working with Cindy on teaching how you can make alterations to the website. But I think that's where we want to end, is with some actions that make our website relevant. And right now it's really very irrelevant, that there's not a lot of updates that happen on there. It's just nowhere that you would go to and say, I'm going to come back here in a couple of weeks and see what's new, right? It's going to look identical. So, but yeah, I agree with you, is that we need to reach to that point where we're directing people there when we're ready for them, because right now we're not. There just isn't. It would be disheartening for people to go, I think.
But I think when we're ready, because I'm hearing like people saying, "Oh, I didn't know we could do that. I didn't know I could sign up for this. I don't know where my dog license are due. I don't know where I can pay my water bill or whatever." And it's all right. Most of it's right here. So if we do revamp it, driving people to our website when they can know is right here. Just going to this city, website. I think that's where people could know some stuff, but directing them to the website. There's a plethora of information here already.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll make that a future item. And that's exactly where we want to end. I think you just kind of summarized exactly the vision for 18 months from now. That's where we're at, where that website has gone through some revamp. We have a PIO under contract creating content that is going to the website and then cross posting to Facebook and the Grapevine. So much to the point that maybe we can get the Grapevine funneling people over on a link to the website, because now all of a sudden we have 20 videos over there that maybe are explaining exactly what you're talking about. That's like the ultimate dream, is how do you get a business license? Why do you need to have your dog license? Like, all of these questions we could have a lot of fun with city council members doing some of these videos, staff doing some of these videos, like just being more a part of the community, essentially.
Thank you. That's all I had. Oh.
Just add to that, that we have the starting place, which is the FAQ page on the website, which has got 100 of them, I would guess. Exactly what you just spoke to. How do I reserve the park? There's a video. We already have the list to peel down from.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I am just looking forward to Daisy Baker, the dachshund, talking about the importance of being licensed every year. So thank you for indulging my sense of humor.
I'm sorry, I would just, Ms. Hogan's brought up a really good point. We just want to let you guys know is that there is a requirement with a domain name change that has to happen and with our email addresses that have to be changed because it's just a way that the government can irritate local governments really. Makes absolutely no sense to me, but I'm sure they have their reasoning, but it is a heavy lift. And so the assistant city manager is going to add that item to the next meeting so we can kind of discuss what we're required to do.
Thank you. I am always concerned about the most appropriate channel to go through with some of my ideas. So I'm just going to throw this out as maybe a starting point of discussion. But this is the communications ad hoc committee, and we've talked about how to get information out to the public. We've heard great ideas from members of the public. And I would really like us to consider a more formalized format for staff reports that are presented to the city council. And I always felt that if I could answer the who, what, when, where, why, how much questions in my staff reports, that would be that those were successful staff reports. And I'm just speaking personally for myself. There are times that in the past year as a new member of the city council where it was a little frustrating because not all of those questions were answered in a staff report. And so, Mr. Ledbetter, I would just throw that out to you and see if maybe we could go somewhere with that. But I think that the public would really benefit from that.
Yeah, I love this idea to do that within the context of the communications meeting and have workshop, for an hour or so, or maybe we can have possibly the meeting take place at 2 or 3 and really spend an hour on that, especially we have our new city clerk. And so to just formalize, we've had some brief discussions about that. I think more so for, there are some people that really go overboard and are presenting constantly to the city council. And then there's others that aren't normally. And so I think just having that standard canned language because a lot of the times people are like, oh my God, I don't know what am I supposed to put on this? And just basically having the template that's you're just answering these questions based off of your topic. And then that way we homogenize how the information is presented to the council. It becomes more digestible and everybody we're leveling the playing field. So I love that idea. Ultimately, we will have to go back to our city attorney. They always have a very obscure and they just have interest in the staff memos because of for legal reasons, obviously. But I think we should do that. And this is the perfect location to do that, in my opinion. And I would advocate if we do it on the next meeting that maybe we just start like an hour early. That's the first item. And we just say, we're going to give an hour to this. And we kind of can bring examples of different staff memos that we've used over the 2 years I've been here, and we can shred them apart and say all the reasons that they don't look good and how we want to fix them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So do we have any public comment on item D? Okay. So, and as Mr. Ledbetter said prior, item E is just an informational item. Item number 5, future discussion. I think that we've covered that unless anybody have anything to add to that.
I don't.
And item 6 and 7, which are the city manager and staff reports. Do we have any of those?
No, we're just placeholding the agendas. But I think we'll probably just start removing those on some level for our meetings as we move forward. But we just wanted the agendas to kind of all look exactly the same for a time period until we had the clerk position filled. So nothing to report.
Okay. Item number 7,
Nothing for me.
nothing for me either. So I'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting tonight at 5:30. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.